I've made many mistakes as a CEO, and here I mean a founder CEO, not a CEO who's found a company that is already established with systems in place and and people in place, just trying to streamline the things, maybe to scale up or to grow that company. I'm talking as a founder CEO who started from zero. I've made many mistakes that I'm going to talk about today. But today I'm only going to talk about 12 mistakes that I made as a founder CEO. But from these mistakes, I usually take mistakes as lessons that I learned from and work around them to make things better. And I would like anybody who's starting a business to learn also from my mistakes. So one of the mistakes that I made was just focusing on the positives. Coming from a school of thought of you get into business and it's voila, you're successful. Everything goes well. If you're selling, you sell. If you're growing, you grow. You employ people, and everything is well. Because we listen to people's stories that if you really want to succeed in life, get into business. So we got into business and we really saw the reality of the situation. So by focusing on the positives, we never knew that things could go wrong. Later on, I got into a program where we would look at the worst case scenario, the normal case scenario, and the best case scenario. And that is where I learned that you should always be prepared, not only for the positive, but also for the negatives. And this opened my eyes. Because when I focus on the positive, I would always get disappointed when things didn't go right. But this is part of life, and we have to take it in that things don't go right all the time. So, as a founder CEO, we have to expect the negatives. What we have to do is how can we go around these negatives? So by not focusing on only the positives and looking at the negatives also, it will help us navigate through the process. And then number 2, hiring people I liked. This one went wrong for me because at the end of the day, I ended up hiring people who are not right for the positions or for that job. I used to believe in people so much. I would hire somebody because I liked the person and I believed I would change somebody for the better. Only to learn that you cannot change somebody, you can only change yourself. And the only person who can change, the other person can only change themselves. But I had this expectation that yes, I bring in somebody despite their weakness, I would be able to mold them to be better. I was wrong. It never worked. And I remember there's a time I even took somebody. I insisted on somebody that yes, you can grow, and yet the mindset of this person was like she cannot move from that space. And I took the one person for therapy just to try to convince her to change. But it didn't work for me. Yes, I spent money, but it didn't work for me. So hiring somebody because I like and trying to change this person, for me, it never worked. Number 3, second guessing in areas that I was an expert in. And this one happened to me severally. And I, I think because I had some imposter syndrome, that one of doubting myself because I'm coming from a space where there was a lot of criticism and you are always feeling that you are not good at what you do. So you find you are doing things so well, but the moment somebody comes in as an expert, you feel that you're not good at it. And I remember I got a consultant who came in to help me in a certain situation, which I was good at because things were working for me. only to explain to this consultant, because the consultant had a master's degree and I thought that this was good. So this only to come to realize that this person was talking from the academic angle. Matthew was had worked on this in the trenches and learned the hard way. And I was in a good place when it came to this situation. But this person was coming from an angle of having learned this academically, not practically. But he felt that he was an expert in this space more than me because of his background in academics. Then I had to go back and reflect and look at the pros and cons of how far I had gone and where this person was coming from because of the doubts that I had, to really analyze that no, I could be right. And no, this person was trying to push me to a level that I don't think was working for me because I knew this I knew the company more than him. Though they say it's right to listen to I believe in listening to the third, to get a third perspective or a third view of a situation. But I look at it from that discussion point of view, but not from that position of being put down because you're thinking you're a better person than me. And then number four, the speed of decision making. I know there are many instances where I messed up because I was very slow in making a decision. I remember during the COVID season when things were so bad and business had come to a standstill, but I was still having hope, hope, though later I was told hope is not strategy, that things will improve. And I was having this talk with my landlord, whereby the landlord reached out and told me if things are so bad, if I'm not able to pay the rent, I can always move out early. And I was telling the landlord, like, no, things will work out, things will be okay. But I was struggling. Auctioneers had already reached out, but I was looking at it like things would work out. And you see, this slowness in decision making brought me down. It took me time to realize that I was not going to make it in this situation. I stuck for long with stuff that I was paying a lot of money, and yet the business was stagnating because I was slow in on deciding on what to do next. By the time I made the decision, the damage was already done. So I had to really work on my decision making. Yes, I am improving, but I still take time because there are decisions, some which you're supposed to like make immediately, but there's some you have to really sleep over and think about before you decide what to do. And then number five, taking your eyes off the money. Yes, I didn't think I was very good at analyzing my situation from the money point of view. If I was doing that, I don't think I could have stayed with my staff for that long, even when things were looking negative. Because I came to realize when I look back at my records, my financial records, the relation of the overhead was so high that the income that was coming in could not manage the company at that time. So if I had used data to make decisions when things were going wrong, then I don't think things could have gone to the level that it reached when the company really went down. I ignored the financial aspect and focused on the human aspect of I cannot really get rid of these people. The empathetic aspect of no, I cannot get rid of these people. We just have to work harder. And yet the company was struggling. This was wrong. If I'd looked at the data, I could have made the decision differently. And then number six, favoring people. Yes, I know this was a big one for me. I remember I would favor somebody. I remember I really favored somebody because she had papers. She had an MBA in marketing. Let me tell you, things went wrong. She did not even know what she was doing. I did not even do a background check whether the papers were really genuine. And since I didn't have an idea on this aspect of the business, and from my learning, I learned that if you really want to grow, you bring people who know more than you, only to realize that I did wrong. I should have known what this space was, or how to gauge when you put a person in this space to know that whatever the person is telling you is wrong. The person is just guessing. This person didn't know what she was doing, which I came to learn later on when it had already messed up the company. And going in depth and doing my research and learning, I came to discover that the direction that the person was giving us was all wrong. But because I felt like she was right, I favored her against all the feedback that I was getting from the other team. By the time I was letting her go, the damage was already done and it had affected the entire team. Number 7, trying to move with the same people to the next level. I did. I believe that if I want to grow, I have to grow with the same people. I did not want to leave anybody behind. So after having done our strategy for growth, I thought that if I enlighten these people, I take them for training, they learn, they would move with me. But they were not comfortable to move up with me. Some were even telling me they are not ready to go back to school to learn, to grow, because they had responsibilities. Because the way they were looking at things was very different from the way I was looking at things. And they were not ready to move with me. And yet I was feeling guilty getting rid of them because I felt that I was responsible for them. And that was wrong. So by the time I was making my decision to get rid of them, the damage was already done. The damage was already done, but I learned it the hard way. And then number 8, hiring resume builders. And that is a commonality because what I came to realize with SMEs, people come into SMEs as a no option. Our school of thought or our schools have taught us that when you go to school, you finish school, you look for a job. And basically, and this includes me, when we were done with school, our focus was looking for those big institutions, the banks, companies like Safaricom, companies that were big, working in that corporate space, because that is where we believe those intentions to grow. So working for an SME was not going to help us in any way. And that is where you find that when somebody comes into an SME, they know they are coming here to build their resumes, not not to add any value to this resume, to move to that corporate world. And I remember one time I had taken my sales team for training. The trainer was very good. The lessons we learned were very good. And I remember one salesperson asked me, as we are going for this training, are we going to get any certificates we want to add to our CV? And I sat back and I was reflecting and wondering, this person is not seeing the value of this training. This person, his biggest concern is just a certificate to add it to his CV. And yet this training that I also attended is still having an impact on me even up to today. And then number 9, tolerating mediocrity. This one I did for a long time. One, because there was no clarity. By then, I didn't even know how to define this clarity. The company did not even have a vision. We did not even have a purpose. So how was I going to define clarity? How was I going to give my team the measures? How was I going to define my team's performance? There were no goals, there were no targets. The team would come in. I had a very good team. The team would work, but since there was no defined goal, uh, there were no defined targets. The team was just working. But I was feeling that the company is not growing, but I could not place my hand on what was wrong because I was blank. I didn't have a mentor to tell me what I was doing wrong. I don't blame the team here. Why? Because I did not clarify what I wanted them to do. I would just give them tasks and they would do these tasks, but the company was not moving forward. The company had stagnated. So I would tolerate a lot. I would I would get angry and make a lot of noise that why are we not doing much? Why is the company stagnating? And they would look at me that what are we talking about here and we are working? And I would tolerate a lot of things. And tolerating mediocrity brought a lot of hurdle. The company stagnated, didn't move forward until I had to go down and go back to my research and really learn how to clarify, how to bring clarity. We had to create a vision, we had to create a purpose, and we had to define our goals. By the time we are defining this, the team was confused on where to start. You're coming from a space where you are comfortable with the status quo to a state where now you have to be measured. They were not comfortable with it because I tolerated mediocrity for so long. Then number 10, avoiding conflict for the sake of harmony. This one I did a lot until I remember there is a time when a team we would have meetings. We usually used to have Monday meetings and we'd have these meetings and everybody would come and define what they did for the week and where they've reached so far. And the team member would come in and you would talk to her and she would behave like she didn't care, like she would should be she would ignore, she would bring down the other team members, and the team members didn't know what to do, and I would ignore. I would pretend like everything is okay. And this one went for a while until I realized that this was having an effect on us. And this lady took this to the next level because now she thought she had powers because of ignoring, because of trying to avoid this conflict. So when she saw that she can go to the next level, one day she confronted me before the team, bringing me down that I was not doing my part of the work, and yet this was somebody else's work. And that's when I realized that I was making a big mistake, that I would really confront, I have to confront this situation before it gets bad. I'm somebody who doesn't beat around the bush. I like hitting the head on the nail when things are wrong. But when I was now this one, I was really fighting my true self because when I was getting feedbacks like I'm too forward, I should try to sugarcoat things because it really affects people the way I put things as it is. This is now what came out of it, and that's I saw things were really going wrong. At the end of the day, I had to just confront this lady and told her this is what you're doing and it is wrong, and I just have to let you go because this is not right for the company. So that was the cost of avoiding conflict. That was the cost of avoiding conflict, and I had to work a way of having conversations with my team to start from day one to tell them what was wrong, what they have to work on, and what they've done good. And from there, it was easier to tell somebody when things were not working, when they're not improved. It was easy to let this person go without being confrontational. Then number 11, hoping things will get better on their own. They really don't. And this is a weakness that I have, this hope that things will go wrong until somebody told me hope is not strategy. You remember the situation of the landlord, where the landlord told me if things are so hard, I can move out. And I told him things will improve. Things will improve without even knowing what I would do better to make things improve. I was living on hope, and yet things were getting worse and worse. I maintained my team. I stuck in the same space. I maintained the same way of running things and hoped that things will go right. They did. They got from worse to worse. And then number 12, not delegating. This one happened for a long time because and I worked in the company for a very long time because of not feeling comfortable in delegating some issues. I don't think I was so bad at it. I would delegate certain things. But now I I assumed somebody would learn without taking people through the intense training process. And this one was also brought by the fear of I had delegated and somebody messed up big time. And I delegated with the hope that this person will do this job. I cannot say this person was wrong. Where I went wrong here is I did not take this person through proper training and get this person to do this job, to give me that confidence that this person is actually doing the right thing. So when the person messed up, it was not because the person didn't have the know-how. Maybe she did not, but I was also on the wrong because I did not take this person through the training, see how this person is working, feel comfortable that the person can do this job, and let them do the job without me going, me trying to, without me trying to micromanage. So these are the 12 mistakes. So these are just part of the mistakes I made as a founder CEO, but there are many more. If I was to talk about the mistakes I did as a founder CEO, there are so many. And even as I'm talking now, I'm still making mistakes as I'm navigating through growing the company. And some are huge, some have really brought me down to my knees, but I have to keep on going.